Back here on the Meat Speak podcast, powered by the certified Angus beef brand. Bryan Schaff joined here with Chef Tony Biggs, meat scientist Diana Clark. Guys, how you doing?
I'm doing fairly well.
Fantastic.
Nice.
How about you?
I'm really good. You know, it's every once in a while we have a subject, we have a topic, and I find myself trying really hard to adhere to the conservative nature that certified Angus beef is, right? We're owned by farmers and ranchers. But this one, right, the worst elements of my nature come to mind when I think, what should we call this episode? Because we're talking about sausages, right?
Yes.
And it's a sausage party, right?
Sausage party.
But there's so many connotations that society, you people in society, have ruined what could be a really good title for this episode, because we are talking all about delicious sausages, which for me, it was an eye-opening experience. I always thought of sausages as just something that, you know, if you went to the Bob Evans, you know, and you ordered the piggy pancakes, right? They little tiny sausages.
That's how we started.
hot
As a
links.
kid, right? Those little sausages, as
Yeah.
big as your finger.
Yeah.
They call them snossages. Snossages.
But as my own I guess food acumen has grown over the years, particularly as I've gotten to travel and feast at barbecue places. Sausage is a culture in itself. I mean, would you both agree? I mean, Tony, sausage, man, this has been around before Bob Evans, will tell you that.
Well, you know, it has been around for you know, since, you know, the Roman Empire, right? And so let's break down the sausage a little bit. You know, it's a cylinder of meat that's encased in skin, right? And back then, we all have to realize there was no refrigeration back then, so everything was preserved with salt, right? You know, it dates back to the Middle East, Turkey, Iraq, Kuwait. They have a sausage called sujuk, and it's made with beef. And then it's got 7 different Arabic spices, you know, that's blended in this. So, I mean, it just kind of evolved from there. But people want to take credit for it from around the world. You have Germany with the bratwurst. You have the knockwurst, right? You have the Italians with the hot Italian sausage, the mortadella. Okay, now Diana's going to talk about the mortadella that we make here, all beef. But you know, you can put olives in the mortadella. You can put pistachios. You can put, you know, chunks of beautiful rendered fat in the mortadella, and then you've got merguez, right? You got the merguez, right? And so it just goes around the world of the passion, as Bryan just mentioned, with folks today, our barbecue folks, our chefs around the world. How about the French? They think they invent everything, right? Saucisson, all right? I'm not putting down my French friends. I love them. I have a lot of them. They're going to go, that's right, Tony, we did invent this saucisson.
Oh, oui.
But Diana, you go on to it. We make a lot of great sausages at their culinary center. We have done some great things. Tell us a little bit about what we've done at the center.
Yeah, so we just try to make, like Tony was saying, there's so many different cultures, backgrounds with sausages. So what I like to do when we're creating new sausages is try to jump into different countries, and I'll actually, like, for example, for Italy specifically, I'll go to google.it, so that, I mean, it's the Google for Italy, and I'll search ricetta di whatever type of sausage I'm looking for. So that way I get authentic sausages from that country, and I'll try to do that with a vast amount of countries so we could get these different flavors, because to me, that's the neatest part, is that there is so much history in the sausage. And then on top of that, you also are taking, pretty much you could take whatever you want. If you had leftover products within your fridge. So one day we had a lot of mushroom and Swiss cheese. I made a mushroom and Swiss sausage, and it was fantastic. But it was really just taking that extra product. Like Tony was saying, you could take mortadella and put some nuts in it. You can put rendered fat down in it, which we have a ton of. So we try to use that in our sausages as well. So it's kind of neat to have that ability to take that cultural experience and then to lessen that food waste and bring it together.
Yeah. You know, our guest that is going to join us here in a little bit is Arnis Robbins from Evie Barbecue. And you touched on something. Sausage is, you know, there's an artistry to it, but there's also a level of economics that goes into it. And Arnis was saying, they didn't come out of the chute making their own sausage. They decided to make their own sausage when they realized how much prime certified Angus beef brisket trim they were just discarding.
Yep.
To your point, you can make it out of anything. And the thing that I love about sausage is certain times in culinary, the end product is maybe different than the sum of its parts. With sausage, it is the sum of its parts. If you make a sausage and you include, Swiss cheese and whatever, it tastes like sausage with Swiss cheese and whatever. So really, it lends itself to, even if you are, I guess, a little lower down the scale in terms of creativity and in terms of culinary acumen, you can make whatever sausages you want and make them taste like however you want them to taste, right?
Exactly. And I think one of the neat things that our chefs have done too is taking these sausages that we've had and actually using that for more of a charcuterie board. I mean, that to me is actually a true charcuterie board too, because it's a cooked and sometimes cooled sausage. And so Tony I think has done a phenomenal job in then bringing out those flavors in the sausages with different pairings as well.
Yeah. And do you remember what we do with those sausages? We pair them with our favorite beverage, our libration, different beers from around the world. Diana makes a beautiful chorizo. So we do that at the Culinary Center, talking about cultures again. I think you and I have gone around the world with sausage making.
I think so.
From kielbasa to chorizo to longaniza.
Yes.
The Philippines. Okay, that one flavor of anesthesia wine. It's called. It's got star anise flavor in their wine, and that's what they blend their pork meat. Obviously, we do beef here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you guys get into it a little bit? Is the idea of making your own sausage. And we have a pretty wide array of listeners who tune into this podcast. Some are chefs, some are pitmasters, some are weekend warriors at home in their backyard who spend, 8 to 5 Monday through Friday peddling insurance. But on the weekend, right, the sleeves roll up and they're in the backyard. Making sausage isn't nearly as difficult as one might think, but there are certain pitfalls that you could easily fall into if you don't know what you're doing. Can you walk us through how can you do this, make sure that it's not only food safe, but also make sure that, things are chilled to the point where you're not just going to ruin a batch of sausage?
Yeah, that's the main thing. You want to make sure that the product's always cold. Your salt level is really key. Usually you target between 1.5% to 2% salt. That's your goal. We had someone come in one time and they went back and made sausages and they told me how much salt they put in and things weren't holding together. That salt is crucial, not just for flavor, not for preservation, but for binding. So it actually causes the proteins to unfold, and then it is able to encapsulate some of that fat and water and hold together and create more of that meat emulsion. So that is definitely key to have. And then you have your sugar usually in there to offset some of that saltiness flavor. And then also, you don't have to, but we do add in nitrite into our sausages. One, it helps with that warmed over flavor. So if you are going to make a smoked sausage, chill it down and heat it back up later. It helps prevent that. It makes the color stay that pink, and it looks incredible to me when I see that. And then also it helps just with food safety in general, storing that shelf life a bit longer. So yeah, it's pretty awesome to make. Now I want to make sausage.
Can you guys also talk about, I think when a lot of folks think about sausages, like their mind instantly goes to pork.
Yeah.
Right? And justifiably so, right? A lot of sausages traditionally have been made with pork. You guys have managed to take certain recipes that do sort of live in that vein and use beef with them, which, if you're out there listening and you end up with a lot of beef trim, y'all can make sausage out of that. And here's how, right?
Yeah, I feel like sometimes pork is a little, it's not as powerful as beef. So with beef, you might need to amp up a little bit of your seasoning to make sure that flavor carries over. And your other main thing you really want to look at too, just from a creation standpoint, is you have to think about when your consumer is going to eat it. So if you make a batch of sausages and they sit in the fridge for about 2 weeks, you want to test it at that 2-week standpoint for the flavor, because your flavor variation will change as it sits. So that's usually, I used to work at Sara Lee. We worked on sausages there. We would actually wait 3 to 4 weeks before we'd actually test the product to see how it tasted, because that's when a consumer would eat it. So it's making sure that you're doing that correctly. You can also, if you want to, you can make it right away, stuff it, and then you could freeze it the next day. And that's really going to hold in that flavor. And that's what we do at the Culinary Center, and we pull them out and thaw them, and then the chefs take them from there. So.
Yeah, I mean, amazing, and the creativity that you bring to the table. We've actually, we've done this bogus boudin.
Yeah.
Of course, you know what boudin is, right? It's a blood sausage. Some add rice to it from New Orleans. In Latin America, it's called morcilla, and we use that. But we did one with charcoal powder.
Yes.
Do you remember this, Diana?
Uh-huh.
And we call it bogus boudin. And when folks came in and tasted this, they go, Jeff, this is the best morcilla, the best blood sausage we've ever had. And we had to tell them there's absolutely no blood in it, okay? It's only charcoal powder.
Oh, my goodness. That was excellent.
Well, I'll tell you what, on that note, we are going to take a break, and we will be back here in a moment where we're going to sit down with our pal Arnis Robbins from Evie May Barbecue down, we'll say Lubbock, Texas, right?
Yeah.
Home of, right?
No, don't say it.
You know who? Well, we're not
Jerry
gonna,
Lee Lewis, right?
Close.
Close?
Same era, though, right?
Okay.
Let's
Right?
see.
Right? There's two of them, and they grew up literally.
That'll
like,
be the day. That'll be the day.
You're close, right? Mac Davis, right? And Buddy Holly.
That'll be the day, right?
Both,
I was
right?
close, yeah.
Lubbock,
All right.
Texas natives. Arnis and Mallory is lovely wife at Evie Mays. Evie May is their oldest child, actually. How about that? They reside literally half a mile outside of Lubbock city limits. And he'll get into explaining why. Basically, at the time when they started, Lubbock didn't allow food trucks. But Wolf Earth, which is just outside of city limits, did. So they can actually see Lubbock city limits from where they're at. We're going to sit down with Arnis to talk all things about Evie May's barbecue, but specifically about their sausages. And I'm going to tell you, I eat a lot of sausages, in case you can't tell. The sausages that Arnis brings to the table are truly some of the most mind-blowing that I've ever had, not just from an ingredient standpoint, but down to the texture and the snap that you get. And it all comes down to how it's cooked, how it's engineered, and give a listen. The more you hear Arnis speak, the more you realize this guy is kind of like the MacGyver of barbecue, folks. The guy can make anything, and it shows up in his food. So stick around here on the Meat Speak podcast. Joining us up next, Arnis Robbins from Evie May's Barbecue in Lubbock, Texas. Back here on the Meat Speak podcast, powered by the certified Angus beef brand. Joining me here via Zoom all the way, and I mean all the way, because Lubbock, Texas is not an easy place to get to. But if you think Lubbock, Texas, you think a couple things. You think Texas Tech up around these parts in Ohio where we're at, we think of Bobby Knight. But if you're in the food world, if you're in barbecue, you cannot go to Lubbock, Texas without stopping at Evie May's Pit Barbecue. Arnis Robbins, how you doing, sir?
I'm good. How are you today, Bryan?
I cannot wait to get on a plane and get to Fort Worth to pay another visit to y'all. When it comes to barbecue, man, you guys are in an area, I say an area, Texas, like it's some small neighborhood, right? Texas is known for barbecue with Snows and Blacks and Louis Miller. And, there's this guy named Franklin doing something down there as well. Barbecue's a hotbed. Y'all came into the scene, 5 or 6 years ago, and I mean, you've made Daniel Vaughn's top 50 list of barbecue joints in Texas, and you've just been going since then, man. Tell us about Evie May's and really how it came to be.
Well, really, Evie May's at the very grassroots level started in Tucson, Arizona, in my backyard. I had actually started a landscaping business out in Tucson, and barbecue became a weekend therapeutic outlet for me. Started from nothing, no real knowledge, no real barbecue experience or background. And because I grew up in eastern New Mexico, Mallory and I both did, we weren't really exposed to Texas barbecue culture. I remember as a child or a young kid, we would travel to Austin to visit family, and I remember stopping at Louis Miller a couple of times. I would say my very first authentic Texas barbecue memory was going to Louis Miller, and it was probably 1:30 in the afternoon. It was the the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. We were headed to Bastrop for Thanksgiving, and we stopped in, and the only thing they had was a single beef rib, and we're a family of 5. So that's what we got, and pickles, onions, sauce, saltines, and I remember that being, taking a bite of that beef rib and thinking, wow, this is something I've never had before. This is like very simplistic, straightforward, honest barbecue. And then there was a pretty wide gap between there and whenever I started messing around in the backyard. But in Arizona, I was diagnosed with celiac disease in 2010. And we couldn't go out to eat anymore because of the risk of cross-contamination with gluten. So we were able to expand our grocery budget at that point. And so I started buying a lot of steak. I mean, I was grilling steak 2 or 3 times a week. And then, eventually you kind of get tired of a nice prime ribeye. So I decided I wanted to dabble with, smoking and barbecue. I didn't know anything about fire management, so I found an electric smoker on Craigslist, and that was kind of my gateway into barbecue. And messed around with an electric cabinet smoker for 2 years, I think. And I'd put a pork shoulder, or I'd put some ribs on, or a brisket on a Friday afternoon for Saturday lunch. But again, it's just like the more I did it, the more I wanted to do it. And it got to the point, like even grilling a steak, you get everything set up and you get the grill going and you go out and cook and you sit down and hang out. And you're kind of disappointed when it's done, because the cook is what I look forward to more than actually eating the product. So barbecue is kind of a natural fit in that, here we go. Here's a 14 to 16 hour run that I can hang out and poke a fire and all that. So the electric smoker originally led to me building a wood-burning 350-gallon smoker in my backyard. I have some minimal welding skills that I picked up growing up on a peanut farm. So I found a tank on Craigslist, built a wood-burning smoker, and I loved it. I loved everything about it, but it's an expensive hobby, especially when you have that kind of capacity. I mean, there's no way you could load that thing up for Mallory and myself and a 9-month-old. So that led to me getting a mobile vending trailer in Tucson and setting up roadside 1 day a week, all while still operating our landscaping business. But every step of the way, the deeper I got, the more involved I got, the more I did it, the more I wanted to do it. There was never a time early on where, you finish up a cook and I was like, man, I don't know if I want to do that again for a while. It was always, oh man, like I'm going to try this next time because I think that could make this aspect of this product a little bit better. So eventually that passion drove me to believe that barbecue was what I was meant to do. So we did roadside vending 1 day a week in Tucson, which I say Tucson, we lived in a small bedroom community called Corona de Tucson. It was about 25 miles southeast of Tucson Central. And there was a defunct golf course out there, and a gentleman had purchased the clubhouse, and his wife was running a dance studio. And I ended up stopping by one day and talking to him, and he was really interested. So that's where we set the trailer up from March of 2014 until September of 2014. And in September, we decided, we want to pursue barbecue, but if we're going to pursue barbecue, the right place to do it is in Texas. So we relocated to Lubbock, which is about 90 miles from where I grew up. While I was in Arizona, my parents relocated to Lubbock, so it was a natural fit. Evelyn, our daughter, Evie for short, which the restaurant is named after, she had just turned 2 whenever we moved. So we moved to Lubbock, and we were going to set up a mobile trailer in Lubbock and found out that that was not allowed unless you were in an industrial zoned area. So that was an outdated ordinance that the city was working on trying to fix, because they realized that the food truck scene was kind of experiencing a rebirth, and it wasn't just burritos out of somebody's trunk anymore, or fly by night burgers. It was really good food that people were doing, and they were using mobile units because that's what they could afford. So in the interim, we realized that we could set up in Wolfforth, which is a incorporated municipality. We are half a mile from Lubbock city limit, and we could set up here. So we thought, well, let's set up out there and get things started, and then we'll move. We'll start traveling into Lubbock whenever that gets straightened out. Well, while we were in Wolfforth, that's when Daniel Vaughn kind of discovered us and introduced us to everybody else. But the week before he found us, we were desperate. I mean, we had kind of plateaued at a place where we were serving, a really great customer base. It just wasn't big enough, and it wasn't a viable business for us to be in. So Daniel Vaughn shows up one morning, and the next day he posts this online review on his personal blog. And within half an hour, we have people coming out that have just read this review, and they're coming out excited because they never heard of us and want to see what it's all about. So that is really when this whole thing started rolling. That was in May of 2015, and I think by August of 2015, we had outgrown the trailer. We were selling out before we opened, meaning that the quantity of product that we cooked for that day was not going to serve all the people that were in line whenever we opened. So fortunate for us, we were in a great position. The storage facility that we were leasing, that we were utilizing as kind of a makeshift dining room behind the trailer, the landlord of that space also owned a piece of dirt about half a mile down the road. And we had gotten kind of close to him. He had been extremely gracious with us and kind of understood that we were just trying to follow our passion and turn this into something. And he really, really believed in what we were doing. So he came to us and said, if you guys want to make the jump from this trailer to a brick and mortar, I will build this space out for you. You guys design it. I'll build it. Here's what it's going to be a month for 5 years. And I have the most confidence in you guys in the world, and I want to help you out. Which, I just can't even imagine that happening. That's not something that happens. And the amount of the lease agreement in itself was just unbelievable. For him to come in, build a brand new building, let us design it, him finish it out, and then for what he was wanting from us monthly was just an unbelievable opportunity. So we made the decision to do that. In January of 2016, they poured the slab, and we moved into our brick and mortar in, I think it was April 16th of 2016. So here in a year and a couple of months, we went from setting up in our trailer to now moving into a brand new brick and mortar space. And within 6 months, we realized we needed to expand. So then we built on a secondary dining space, as well as a secondary kitchen, doubled our cooking capacity, cold storage. It was an unbelievable growth rate that was fueled by community support. And at the very foundation of all of it was just every day making an effort to make a product that was better than the day before, and never settling, never being content, just always being driven to try to do better and maintain a craft level of product that, it was easy whenever I was cooking 5 briskets a day, and now we're cooking 105. And how do we make this product the same as it was, And I don't know that there is a way to actually do that, but to be as close as possible is what we strive for every day still. But in hindsight, it's awesome that we were able to do what we did without, I'm a business entrepreneur, but below that, I'm passionate about barbecue, and to do what we've done without a business plan, without loans, without a plan, period. I mean, we got into the trailer not as a stepping stone, but because we thought that was the only viable way that we could pursue our passion of barbecue. So it's been really awesome. We've been super blessed, and we're super thankful for the people here and the way that they've embraced us. We have an unbelievable crew that works their tails off for the same reasons that we did when we started. And it's been a really, really cool evolution.
Oh, that's so cool. That is so cool. You seem to be one, and we haven't even talked about the building that you have behind where you make these custom pits for people around the country. You seem to be one of those folks who kind of has an engineer's eye about things. You're one of those guys. I'm super jealous because if it's broke, you can fix it, right? You have a gift.
Well, I was just going to say that comes from my background of growing up on a farm. I grew up on a production peanut farm in eastern New Mexico, and the variety of peanuts that we grew are traditionally grown in very sandy soil. Well, sandy soil, it's hard to maintain moisture. So my dad was able to grow peanuts in a very tight type of soil that would retain moisture, and he was able to yield a lot higher yield on his crops than most other growers. But in order to harvest and process those peanuts, he had to create and build equipment that was able to handle them because they weren't being grown in sand. So, traditionally, you pull a peanut vine out of the ground, and the peanuts are legumes, and they grow subsurface, and you pull this plant out in sand, they come out super nice and clean. Well, in tight soil, you pull them out, and they're covered in dirt. Yeah. So he had to modify and revise like every piece of equipment that we had to be able to handle these peanuts and to get the dirt off without cracking them or without exposing them to too much moisture, which would cause them to rot. So I think that I grew up thinking that you couldn't buy anything. You couldn't buy anything and use it the way it was intended. You had to buy something that was close enough and then make modifications. So that was just kind of my mindset growing up. And I think it's lent itself very, very well in both landscaping and in the barbecue industry, especially on this scale where there are very few people across the country that build high-quality, reputable smokers that are capable of cooking our products the way that we want them to. Not to say that there aren't people doing it. There are. But to be able to do that myself in-house has been a huge advantage.
That's really cool. That's really cool. Let's change gears, and we talked about kind of the engineering behind the smokers. In case you can't tell by looking at my physique, I eat a lot of barbecue, and then of course in Texas, brisket is king. And I'll tell you what, and this is not me like trying to be like biased because you use certified Angus beef. Your brisket is among the very best that I've ever had. But it's the sausage that you guys make that when we said we need to talk about sausage, we got to get Arnis on the horn, man. I eat a lot of sausage in barbecue joints. I don't know what you guys put in your sausage, but it's exceptional. Can you tell us about I guess what the engineering behind your sausages? What makes them stand out like they do?
So, having not grown up in Central Texas, but not even in an area of the country that, I never would have thought you could make your own sausage growing up. My parents, we didn't hunt growing up, so, game processing and sausage making, it just wasn't even on my radar. Whenever I got into barbecue, I knew that to be in, a good barbecue joint in Texas, you had to have good sausage. So when we first started in Lubbock or Wolford, we actually went to a local processor and talked to them. They were making some really, really great sausages. And I went and talked to the manager over there one day and kind of told them what we were doing and what we wanted. And they were very, very helpful and actually started custom making a sausage product that was exclusive to us. So they would make us enough for the week. I'd pick that up on Tuesday and we'd cook it that week. And it was great. And a year and a half into the restaurant, to the brick and mortar, actually it wasn't a year and a half, like 7 months into the brick and mortar, in a week, I decided I'm going to weigh all of the lean brisket trim that I'm cutting and just see what I'm throwing in the trash. And, you know, making sausage in-house was something that I always wanted to do, but it was just an overwhelming thing to think about, not knowing anything about sausage. And you read these things and you read about, critical temperatures and as far as production goes, or else you'll get into smear issues. And then if you smear a 30-pound batch of sausage, it's basically garbage. And so it was overwhelming to think about. And I actually reached out to Daniel Vaughn and asked if he could refer me to somebody that might be open to giving me some just very basic pointers. And he got me in touch with Evan Leroy, which now is co-owner of Leroy and Lewis in Austin. And he told me to order a book called Charcuterie. That's all. I forget the author's name, but if you look on Amazon, just search Charcuterie. And so I ordered this book, and it's full of good stuff. But there's a very basic sausage recipe in it that our sausage product grew from. So we started there, and I say we. My only help in the pit room at the time was Nathan Peer, the first guy that I hired to help cook and help with the meats. And he and I started experimenting with sausage. And I mean, we do 5 or 6 batches a day trying to get it dialed in. Oh, going back to weighing all of my trim, in 4 days of service, I threw away 100 pounds of certified Angus prime lean trim. And so it was pretty apparent at that time, we got to cook this. We cannot throw away this much good protein. So our sausage is 5 primary ingredients, and that's in what we call our traditional German sausage. And that's salt and pepper, garlic, paprika, and we use just a little bit of curing salt, not as a curing agent, but as a binder. We're not letting this product sit and cure. But having celiac disease, I didn't want to do cereal binder. And I didn't want to use a dairy product either. So that's how we kind of settled on the curing salt. And then our green chili and green chili cheese sausage is that same base with fresh roasted green chili and cheddar cheese. So, you know, the sausage is a little bit like everything else that I've learned in barbecue. The more simple you can keep it, and just do it very well and very consistent, the better. That's the same as my seasoning started for all things barbecue. Maybe 10 or 15 different things out of the cupboard, and now it's salt and pepper. So it's all about quality ingredients and consistent procedures and cooking.
Excellent. What do you guys do with your sausage? Do you smoke it then?
We do. So we've actually gone back and forth. It all gets smoked. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it gets smoked and goes straight out for service. Sometimes it gets smoked and then goes into a ice bath to shock, and then we will bring it back really, really hot. And the reason we do that sometimes is it really helps the casings. It gives them that really, really clean snap. Yeah. That's one area. The sausage is being produced the same as it was 4 years ago. But the cooking procedure is something that we kind of go back and forth on from time to time, and kind of seasonally. Here in Lubbock, we have obviously really, really hot, dry summers, but the winters can be very, very cold. So a lot of times in the winter, that's where we'll finish it really, really hot, just to try to get that casing to pop.
Yeah. I guess going back to the idea, and you've touched on it a few times, is you make smokers. You have this really unique way of kind of looking at the world and food and things like that. You built all the tables in your own restaurant as well, didn't you?
Right. Out of necessity. I mean, you wouldn't believe how expensive restaurant furnishings are whenever you're starting with nothing.
But it's funny, you walk in and it honestly didn't surprise us at all when we were in there, because like you're in the back like welding these giant containers into pits. So that's amazing. I'll tell you what, before we roll, of course, you're in Texas, the Texas barbecue community. It's funny, for a state that is so freaking big, the barbecue community, man, is so tight-knit. When you travel, especially when you travel around Texas, you got some favorites that you stop in for other barbecue?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, unfortunately, we don't get to travel a whole lot outside of barbecue travel. That seems to be what we do the most of. As far as, barbecue festivals, we don't do competition, but there's five barbecue festivals that we try to do annually. One is in Tyler, one is in Austin, one in Dallas, one in Fort Worth. So that, it's awesome to be able to do that. And we cross paths with these barbecue folks, obviously, whenever we do those. But yeah, we always try to get to a couple of spots while we're out and about. It would be, I'll be the first to tell you, I haven't experienced a whole lot of the top 50, just because of, time constraints. And yeah, we're all in the same state, but we're a good 6-hour drive from Austin. So, but no, we've definitely enjoyed, going to Snow's and going to Franklin and going to Tejas and there's, Louis Miller. There's a handful of them. But yeah, I'll tell you this, I am not a barbecue critic. If I go to a barbecue joint and they're cooking on wood, live fire, I don't care what their food tastes like. I know that they work their tail off to do it. Yeah. And, I will appreciate it for what it is.
Sir, that is about all the time we got here. Arnis Robbins, Evie May Barbecue. Please, 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 when you do head back inside, give our best to Mallory and the family as well. If y'all happen to be venturing in Lubbock, Texas, home of Buddy Holly and Mac Davis, by the way, right? I mean, local icons. Please, I highly, highly recommend making the trek. I think we went down, we were 2 hours south of Amarillo to get there, and it was worth every mile of that flat West Texas landscape. So, Arnis Robbins, Evie May Barbecue. Sir, thank you so much for taking time on the Meat Speak podcast. Back here on the Meat Speak podcast, powered by the certified Angus beef brand. Bryan Schaaf, joined by Chef Tony Biggs, meat scientist Diana Clark. Guys, and Chef Tony, what constitutes a sausage, right? We've been eating hot dogs, right? Forever. Is a hot dog a sausage?
Forever. Well, if you ask German culture, they call it the Frankfurter, right? And I guess we stole that idea, us Americans, and we're very, very, the use of the English language. So what do we call it? We call it the hot dog, right?
We Americanized it.
It's
right up there with Notre Dame.
Let's keep it simple.
And instead of getting, a German lady with 10 steins of beer in one hand, waiting for that Frankfurter, what we do is we put relish, onion, and Diana, you're from Chicago.
Mustard, tomato,
tell us a little bit
pickle.
about the Chicago dog.
Oh, yeah, you have to have all of those things for Chicago. You cannot, no ketchup. But I will have to admit, guys, I actually do usually have ketchup and pickle on my hot dog. But it's okay. And you're not allowed to have it, though. If you're in Chicago, Portillo's, oh, my gosh.
All day long.
All day long. I don't know how people don't know what Portillo's is.
Explain to me the relish that's on a true Chicago dog, because it's
It's bright green.
Yeah,
it's Soylent green.
It looks
Pickled
like
relish.
it's been in a nuclear reactor before it actually hits your. Like that's not normal.
Yeah, what
looking
is
relish.
that?
It makes it pop. So you got the yellow, you got the green. You see it all. The tomatoes. You get that nice bite.
But
It's
what it makes it?
everything.
Can
hot
you
pepper.
buy this relish already
Yeah.
green like this?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
You have to have it.
You just scoop it
I
out
have
of
to
the
have
Chicago
goggles, special
Chicago
goggles.
River.
It blinds me.
That's
you know?
they make it with the Chicago River water after they got it.
So you say Portillo's in Chicago, right? I'm gonna guess, right? The best Chicago dog I've ever had is at Fatso's Last Stand, have you had there?
I have not.
Right, but I've also not had Portillo's. So.
See, that's yeah.
But I have to brag about our certified Angus beef hot dogs. Okay.
Oh, I know.
I mean, I got to tell you.
And they can now be
they're
found in Trader
incredible.
Joe's too.
They cannot be found in Trader Joe's. They're amazing, low sodium, actually no fillers like we profess. And so whoever hasn't tried our CAB hot dogs, certified Angus beef hot dogs, go try them. Amazing.
I
Right.
completely agree.
Diana, I'm going to tee you up because I know this is a soapbox that you really enjoy standing on, right? Hot dogs, right? Americans, right? We'll say hot dogs we'll call them sausages, but we're talking about hot dogs. They have this reputation, and sometimes you'll hear people say, "Oh, well, they're not good for you because they just put the leftover parts in there." Meat scientists, I want you to defend the hot dog against the people saying, "Well, they're cheap and Lord knows what's even in it."
There's meat in it. It's a hot dog. You can see it on the label exactly what's in it. The reason why it's so fine is they actually it's called a bull chopper, and it spins around really fast, and it has these blades on there that almost makes it like a toothpaste type texture. It really just emulsifies it. And so that's why it's got that softness to it. And that's, to me, the beauty of the hot dog. Your kids can enjoy them. You can enjoy them. Even when you're 95 years old and your teeth are falling out, you can still enjoy a hot dog and reflect back on those days.
3 hours from here is Buffalo, New York. It's amazing. Only 3 hours away, a culture, of food is so different from Ohio. So they make a Salen's hot dog, exactly what you described. Very fine puree of pork and beef, but it's very fine. So when you bite into it, it's got that texture, that very fine texture, which I like. And I like the casing that it's wrapped into. So that's a very, very popular hot dog in Western New York.
That's awesome.
Outstanding. On that note, I believe we've approached the witching hour here on the Meat Speak podcast, powered by the certified Angus beef brand. If this is your first time tuning in, shame on you. This is season 2. There's a whole other season out there that's filled with 30 episodes that you can scratch that meaty itch that might be bothering you. So I implore you to go back and catch up. Right? What's the term all the kids use these days? The binge watching with the Netflix. Binge listen. Right? 30 episodes. They're each about 30 to 40 minutes long. You could do 30 episodes in 24 hours easily.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Right.
I challenge.
Invite your friends over, right?
Hey, I did Breaking Bad, I think, in 2 days. Was that 30 episodes? I think, yeah. Watched every one, 2 days.
That's it. We appreciate y'all for joining us. Special thanks to our pal Arnis Robbins. He actually told me off the air that he had lots of time on his hands when we were doing that because in his other exploits, in addition to building amazing reverse flow smokers, he was making his own chili roaster.
It's
which,
incredible.
Wow.
As my hobby, I have a beer here and there. He's like, I'll make a chili roaster. No problem. So I highly recommend y'all get to West Texas. Go pay our pals a visit at Evie Mae's Barbecue. So until next time, Bryan Shaw, Chef Tony Biggs, meat scientist Diana Clark. Thanks for joining us here on the Meat Speak podcast, powered by the certified Angus beef brand.